talking about a specific video tonight and general channel of, I don't remember what I'll read it in a second. High five.
À-bas-le-ciel.
À-bas-le-ciel. High five for 100 plus subscribers.
Bam!
Bitch.
We kick at, well, we're at 108 now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be 109 before this video's over.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It seems somebody's promoting us, so whomever out there is promoting us, thank you fucking so much, man. Keep it up. This is
thumbs up.
This is a big deal.
And
we intend to kick full ass here, and trust me when I tell you, neither of us are lying. Most especially considering that she hasn't even said anything. But I am certainly telling you the truth when I say that not only are we going to continuously further our ass kicking insofar as regards quality and dimension, scope, and the brilliance of our presentations, but we are going to reward you very heavily the moment we hit that 200 subscriber mark. So share that shit.
He's gonna show his beehole.
Help us get big. Well, I mean, don't ruin the fucking surprise. Shit.
I'm not seeing mine. What? Okay. À-bas-le-ciel. And the name of the video specifically is #MeToo, freedom of speech gets people fired. And I think that you were correct in that is kind of a sarcastic type of title.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't get all weird.
Yeah, this dude's way too intelligent to actually have that to say.
I think it's a sarcastic one where he's specifically talking about an incident that, from the dates of some of his screenshots, seems to be pretty recent. One of them was like August. This one was just published, actually, like a couple weeks ago. Source one, okay, some kind of Jonathan Kyman affair. His philosophical reflections, that's a nice way of putting it, I like it, but some dude was accused of something, and a couple of chicks came out afterwards and had things to say about it. I don't know much about the incident itself. We don't know much about the incident itself, but he had some very interesting, so far, opinions on the whole culture and the movement of what's happening now with the Me Too stuff.
Mm-hmm. Again, just to be sure you guys understand fully, we did check this out for about a minute and a half or so, but we do not watch any of the videos that we respond to prior to responding. Everything we give you is entirely honest and genuine in the sense that it is our first reaction to something we have never actually put our full attention into beforehand.
Nope, 1 minute and 40 seconds in. So we're gonna see what this dude has to say. He's got a cool little music intro thing going on right now.
Let's just say, hypothetically, someone wrote an autobiographical account on the internet of someone else's.
Oh.
Good job,
I push
madam.
buttons. Whoopsies.
Bad behavior. Let's say no laws were broken. Let's just say someone who got drunk and acted in a manner that was shameful. And let's just suppose this account was completely truthful. But because this account was written, somebody lost their job. Someone's whole life got turned inside out. They lost their job, they lost their home, they had to move to another place, they lost their book deal. I really want to challenge you. Does that mean that the first person was wrong to write that autobiographical account? We have to make hard decisions about freedom of speech in the 21st century. I have a ton of respect for Laura Tucker. Laura Tucker is a woman who was living in Beijing, and she wrote a completely reasonable account of her bad experience with a journalist called John Kyman, sometimes given as Jonathan Kyman, naturally. The one thing you could never legislate is reasonableness. You can never government says, you know what, we're going to give you freedom of speech, but be reasonable. You know what? Freedom of
think
speech.
that's
Let's
funny.
be perfectly
No, I think
reasonable
that's
here in
hilarious.
saying that reasonableness is not actually a usable word.
I think it gets the point across. You know what he means. We all know what he means. That reminds me of something that happened to me once at my old job at a assisted living facility, and this really, 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 really old lady with like dementia was wheeled down to our cafeteria area on voting day to vote. And let me tell you, I've sat with this woman for like 2 years, every week, a few days a week. She had no idea what planet she was on. And come voting day, I found myself flabbergasted and just like confused about how this is a thing. It's almost like how people talk about old people driving. Like, should they get their license renewed, or should there be some kind of medical test or something, because old people apparently run people over, I guess, and it happens a lot, which makes sense. But yeah, this lady had no idea what planet she was on, let alone who was the president or who was running for president or anything and about those people or what they stand for, what their opinions are. All she knows is that her whole life she checks the red box, and so come voting day she's wheeled down with absolutely no information and checks the red box, just like she's always done. Every 4 years she's like 90 or 98 years old or something. And I thought that it was such a weird situation that, kind of like how he's saying, you can't really, like, how do you legislate that kind of thing? Like, you can't really just put a cutoff. You can't really legislate that sort of thing. But it is a weird situation to have people that are jumping in to make decisions for all of society who have no prior knowledge of anything. And that's what it made me think of when he said legislate reasonableness. Because that's a weird, tricky situation. It's kind of a sticky situation. And it reminded me of that. And I think he's absolutely right. You can't just tell, people like, okay, you can say whatever you want in this, in this country or whatever, but make sure you're not dumb. Like,
I should like to note that
you can't do that.
An opinion that I believe we both share openly is that, where it comes to such acts as voting, in a democracy, and driving even, we really should take into account the alterations that transpire throughout aging. I mean, people who are suffering from such ailments as dementia obviously are just, bottom line, no longer qualified to make these assessments. They certainly aren't safe behind the wheel. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to discriminate against old people, but I mean, if a person cannot drive safely, obviously we can do some kind of a test to ascertain that, and provided they fail the test, they should in fact no longer be allowed to drive because it is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And voting, that is an even more dangerous scenario. Also, I should like to note that Sweetie Cheeks and I do in fact, or at least are trained to work in the same field there, me being an STNA, her being a caregiver. So, both working in nursing facilities.
Yeah, I know a lot of old people, and I talk to them, see them, help them every single day. At this point, it's been 7 years, and most of them are like family. And I would tell you that it's a very, very tricky situation to determine the ability of different people, because I swear it's the weirdest thing. Everybody is so different that you can't set any kind of guideline for that. I know a woman that was like 103 years old, no walker, no cane. She does all of her own like crap. She does her own laundry. She goes out. Like, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then there's another person who, you know, give anybody, and they're 70 and they can't even tie their own shoes. You know what I mean? It's weird, dude. I'm telling you, there is no anything consistent with the aging process and what happens when people start getting problems with their brains and their bodies. There's no way to regulate that in any way, shape, or form. How do you do that?
There are potential ways, but we haven't really made viable use of them yet. That is to say, we have them available. We do, in fact, know what many of them are, or what potential methods can be made use of, but I think it's a matter of sort of like a stigma or a schism in society, really, wherein we really care so much more about public opinion rather than, you know, actual safety and what's the word, you know, assuring safety. It's like, we don't want to come across as though we are being discriminative against old people, but let's put it this way: you are in the same position and requiring of the same level of scrutiny in very old age, especially in the case of having, you know, begun to suffer from such things as dementia, Alzheimer's, that sort of thing, as you are when you are in fact an infant who cannot manage to form full sentences.
Right, you can't vote until you're 18. Because you're incapable. You're incapable of when you're, you know, when a toddler doesn't know who's running for president or city council or whatever, and they have no way of receiving that information and processing it in such a way as to make a decision along with the rest of society. And it is, I mean, it's a very tricky situation.
Right.
And I would say, I think people have different opinions on it. There's that whole group that I recently heard about that does events and like they're activists for felons who can't vote anymore. And I feel like there's probably a bunch of people out there that are like, hell no, felons shouldn't fucking vote. But a lot of people, I don't see the problem. Maybe they've been wrongly accused. Maybe they're just a nonviolent offender who likes to smoke some weed and now they can't vote. Like, there's a lot of weird, not cool stuff. And it's a weird, tricky situation. I don't know. I guess, you know, I don't know how you deal with that.
Any number of mistaken and or even dishonest discrepancies could be transpiring insofar as regards these sorts of situations where it comes to, say, felons. I mean, A, it could very well be that they have been wrongfully incriminated. B, it could very well be that they've been incriminated for such petty crimes as making use of, you know, what for all intents and purposes is not even really a drug at all, let alone a dangerous one. And we are in fact now beginning in most places in the United States to go ahead and overturn convictions for these drugs.
Expunging. Actually, at the end of this month, I think, is National Expungement Week or something like that. I saw a funny video of Seth Rogen, apparently, is like a type of spokesperson for this organization that goes around to different cities holding events and helping people who have records specifically for like marijuana to try and get their records expunged, because it's you know, vastly, it's becoming more and more illegal, and the states are dropping like flies, basically, with the marijuana thing. So why should people, again, have the right to vote taken away from them when what they did maybe was illegal 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but it's not now, and they still can't vote. It's kind of messed up.
Well, I can actually give you a few answers to that. One, at face value, it would seem as though that is, you said Joe Rogan?
No, Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen?
Yeah, he's
is,
like a notorious, like, stoner dude.
It would seem at face value that, in fact, the reasoning behind his advocacy of this and his fighting for it would be because the records are beginning to become expunged now, which, mind you, think about how crappy that's really going to be for the people who get their records expunged when they've already spent however many years in prison for what effectively is not even a crime at
Right.
all. Now they're going to be set loose on the streets
happens
and
all
get
the time
they're
with
going to be given essentially
stuff, too.
sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I just heard a story recently about, apparently, I think in Florida, there was some cop that was putting drugs on people during routine traffic stops, but his body cam like caught a bunch of shit because I guess it records, like a minute before you turn it on or something like that. I don't know how that works, and there was like over 200 cases of this dude arresting people after they like ran a stoplight and would put meth in their car. And they apparently, some of the problem stems from their little drug testing kits are super inaccurate. There was one lady who they tested like a crusty piece of fucking cotton candy on her back seat, and it came out positive for methamphetamine, and she went to jail. There was another.
I highly doubt that.
I don't know, man. Apparently, they're not so accurate.
That
These
was
freaking tests.
very likely a lie.
I don't know. There was
Like,
another one
they
with
just said it was
a chick that got like her kids taken away and like sat in jail for like 3 months because they have to send these these tests to like actual labs, and it takes such a long time, and they're backlogged and blah blah blah. And so by the time they get an actual laboratory to test the substance that they that they found that was methamphetamine, you didn't hear about the guy with the bird poop? He had bird shit on the hood of his car, and they said that it was cocaine. This guy got arrested. He was some kind of football player for some college somewhere, and he was like, "Why would there be cocaine on my car?"
Right.
And they the guy scraped, the cop scraped, and he was like, "Oh, that's meth for sure. That's meth. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna test it right now." And there's audio of this, it was videotaped, and it came back positive for cocaine.
No, that's definitely a lie.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It seemed kind of legit, and the dude is suing up the police department apparently.
The
So,
cop,
I don't know, Florida, maybe. I don't know.
That test most very positively did not, under any circumstances, come back positive for drugs.
He kept telling the dude, it's on. I listened to the audio of it. I didn't see if there was video. I didn't see the video, and the audio is so funny. This dude's like, "What are you talking about?" to the cop, and he just kept saying, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's cocaine, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm for sure that's cocaine." He just kept repeating himself over and over again. And the dude was like, "I don't know what you're talking. It's bird poop," and they kept going back and forth like that for a while. It's like, "It's cocaine." "Dude, that's bird poop." No, that's cocaine, man. "No, that's bird poop." It just kept going back and forth.
Yeah, no,
And they arrested this guy, and they suspended him from his school football team or whatever, and it was this big thing that just happened a few weeks ago. I don't know. I don't remember the dude's name or whatever. I just thought that was such a funny thing. But why? I mean, why would a police officer do that? That's so ridiculous.
As I was saying, the various responses or even answers that I can give to that. Firstly, at face value, it would appear that the reason, he would be advocating for this is because the records are becoming expunged now. But in reality, the reason he would be advocating for this is because not only is it not an actual drug to be rendered illegal for any good reason whatsoever, but it is in fact something that's beneficial to the psyche of the human being, and that should, if anything, qualify you more to be participant in
like voting and
in
shit.
voting and whatever, you know, activities we have insofar as regards our communities.
I agree. I think
Now,
it's ridiculous.
what should absolutely disqualify someone from being able to vote in a presidential election of all things is the sort of mentality that would cause for you to, say, pretend that feces is cocaine for the sake of arresting somebody because you are somehow so prejudiced.
I can't figure out the end game with this. I even wrote it in the comments of like an Instagram post or whatever. Like, what is the end game here? You're a cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You plant drugs on hundreds of people.
You don't plant drugs. You use bird shit.
Well, going back to the guy that's planting them, like, what's the end game here? Like, what is that going to do for you? You have a big file in your file full of hundreds of people that you arrested for having, you know, meth and cocaine and stuff. Is that like make you look better? Is it like a certain quota that you need to fill every year, every month, or whatever? I mean, is it really worth all of that? These people get their kids taken away from them and shit?
Right.
Like, it's...
One, it's going to be a quota that they want to fill or need to fill.
I don't know if those are real. I've heard rumors for years about the police quotas. I'm not sure if that's real.
There could very well be some sort of a bonus involved for getting a lot of people in that way.
Cash money. That would do it. Profit
3,
motive.
obviously, reputation and you know, your standing in the police force or police office or what have
Possibly.
you. The precinct. 4 could very well be, you know, that people are expecting for you to accomplish this. Perhaps you've been, you know, successful in the past.
Yeah, okay. No, I get
But
it.
5, ultimately, it's really going to be...
enough.
It's really going to be some sort of a prejudice, some sort of a hateful mentality, some sort of what we would have to define as being schizoaffective, if not flat out psychotic, at the very least somewhat crazy motivational schematic.
That is crazy. There was like 228 cases of this, and he could be facing up to like 30 years in prison or something.
Hatefulness, discrimination, that's going to be what it adds up to there. And yes, that should, if, you know, amongst all things, that should be at the very top of the list of things that should disqualify you from being a participant factor in things that are in fact deciding
choices for people,
the future and the
laws.
nature of our very country and communal system.
I agree.
So yeah, that's something there. As stated, and I don't want to go ahead and suggest that, you know, obviously if you're an infant, if you're too young to fully comprehend the nature of the situation and the consequences involved, then of course that's why you're not yet allowed to vote. You haven't, for all intents and purposes, you have not yet
you don't have the mental capacity.
yeah,
you're not developed.
well, I mean, maybe sometimes they're savants, you know, geniuses, but still, they don't yet comprehend the nature of the consequences involved and the responsibility that's involved.
Absolutely not. And there's some 18 and 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds that have no idea what the hell is going on.
And I think that there should be some sort of an assessment testing for that.
I was going to say that. I don't know. People bring that up like as a joke, you know, like should we test people on the information and how well informed they are before they go vote for somebody or whatever, and I think that's a little much. I mean, to have to walk in there, like, I go and vote,
I don't
and I
think
walk
it
in and
should
I check a
be-
box or whatever. I should not have to go in there and present my homework to these
Yeah,
people
I
to
don't-
let
I don't
me
think it
vote.
should
I don't
be-
think that's right.
I don't think it should be any sort of an educational or sophistication assessment, but I do think that there should be definitely be some degree of an assessment as regards the nature of your comprehension of the responsibilities involved.
Yeah, maybe like your mental capacity, if you have brain degeneration and you don't know
Like, let's
what's
say
going on. The lady that I was referring to, like, would sit out her chair and out her window, she's seeing like fires and paratroopers. Like, it was just,
yeah,
it's
I
all over the
remember
place.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. So there's no way that she knew what the hell she was voting for.
Let's say, for
absolutely
example,
not. I don't know. Maybe she did.
A good idea I should like to propose in this regard perhaps would be something along the lines of, looking into a person's career, that is to say, not their, particular job career, but their life career, including schooling, whatever jobs they've served. Generally speaking, a person's life career insofar as regards their comprehension of responsibility and consequence. Say, because obviously, let's say, for example, a felon. If somebody, I don't know, like murder, rape, that sort of thing, especially fraud on a massive scale, that would disqualify you from, just on merit alone, disqualify
Any felony
you.
apparently disqualifies you from voting, doesn't it? Or is it
I believe it does,
the
yeah,
major,
but
just the major ones? I don't know.
But I mean, to be real here, let's be honest. If the crime that you've committed is something along the lines of, say, theft or I don't know, public disorder, or sometimes people get arrested and even charged with felonies for such things as protesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, a car accident or anything short of murder, rape, or severe fraudulence. I think it's like, I mean, provided you want to vote. Honestly, in this day and age, it's more like, in this day and age, it's more, especially with this prior election where the only viable candidate was actually deliberately removed from the contest, and we were left with what effectively amounted to a very, very scary sort of warmonger and reality TV show character. Like, I mean, on one hand,
How did South Park put it? A giant douche and a shit sandwich. I think that was for a different election years ago, but it's still applicable.
on one hand, it's like, what's the fucking point? Because I mean, either way we lose, and I mean, well, in my opinion, had we elected Hillary, we would definitely be engaged in a third world war by now. In my personal opinion, I saw that coming. I would have fully expected that.
I know what you mean, absolutely. But even the way that it did turn out, and even possibly if it had been something that was much, much worse, like you said, if it led to some kind of, conflict or something, atrocities, obviously that's not a good thing. But no matter how it turns out or what your opinions are, it could possibly lead to better things in the future. You never know. I mean, the path is not concrete. The path is not set, and synchronicity is there to guide every one of us. And so who knows? I mean, maybe
absolutely.
having a weird, orange dude with a wig. Maybe that's going to lead to something even greater in the future.
Right. Oh, it will. It will.
You never know.
It will,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
What we might see as being the worst possible scenario as it unfolds, in most cases actually, will wind up leading to something much greater in the future. But in the case of where it comes to Hillary Clinton, and this is just my opinion, what I had expected, my deliberations based on my experience and my intuition, in fact, is that in the case of having elected her, we would not be afforded an opportunity to make good on it, because we would likely all get killed during her term.
You think that's a little bit extreme?
I think she would have started World War III straight out the gate, and anybody who's smart enough to understand how our weapons and military operates nowadays would be very understanding of the very likely fact that there is no surviving that particular battle.
Yeah, I mean...
And we can't afford that anyway. We're on the initiative is here for a very specific mission. We're here to ensure, that we make it through to the next phase. And, well, a gigantic world war would definitely stifle or hinder, if not entirely eliminate, any chance of achieving that.
There are violent conflicts happening right now, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we could actually say that it is
but
a kind of a world war, honestly.
There's a lot of bad stuff happening out there right now, and it's a very scary thought. My heart goes out to people that have been harmed and refugees all over the world. It's very sad. Anyway, sidetrack. Derail.
Oh, wait. What I wanted to say about the voting thing, though, is that some level of assessment should be determined as regards
maybe
people of age
logistically
voting,
it's kind of a hard thing
we give people, we test people, at least in insofar as goes some sort of a resume or an interview or what have you, to do a job.
Except
this is a job.
Important one,
right, exactly. We have somebody who is severely underqualified for the job he is doing, which is in fact running the entirety of our country. But when you go to apply for a job, even like McDonald's or trash picking, you are tested. You're given you have to fill out an application, you have to provide a resume, you have to do an interview to assess your credibility.
Yeah, even the DMV does the little eye test, so like we were talking about old people, at least there's that. It's better than absolutely nothing.
So yeah, voting is kind of a big deal job to be doing, and